And what does that mean? How do you feel when you feel like a failure? And I think we may not all have the experience of labeling ourselves, I am a failure, but I think we often get into labeling ourselves in some kind of negative way. I'm stupid or whatever. So we want to look at what we can do with this and talk about what are some of the problems with this statement. Well, to start with, Charlotte talked about getting down to the process, looking at process in her work. Well, in my work, I also think about that in a slightly different way. This statement, I am a failure, is very far removed from any process that it might be describing. If Grandpa Sam just said, I am a failure, we don't know anything about what he's referring to, do we? So we want to specify this more, to say to ourselves, what do I mean by this, and to get the specific details. Now let's go through this process and see how we can do this. And I'm going to write, I am a failure. Again, but I'm going to do something a little bit different to it. I'm going to put a quote around failure. And in general semantics, we use quotes to indicate that there is something about this word that we better be careful about. And one of the things that we better be careful about with this word is that it is very far removed from the experience it refers to. And also, what it refers to is not at all clear. We don't really know, in a sense, what we're talking about. Do we? So we want to say, well, what do we mean by that? And the quote marks are like a red flag that say, watch out, you may be talking nonsense. Okay. Now, Milton indicated that there's a problem with this. He used the is, but this is a form of is, with the is of identity. So our next step is to change the I am to I feel like a failure. Again, we're putting the failure in quotes. We'll come back to that. And I'm also going to put feel in quotes. Now, Charlotte was talking about how we recognize that we function as organisms as a whole. Milton referred to that too. Charlotte talked about that we can't separate our thinking from our feeling. I would say also that we can't separate our feeling from our thinking, as well as a lot of other things. And the quotes are that red flag that say, watch out. Another advantage to changing to the feel rather than I am is that this recognizes, when you say I am a failure, it's as if I was born a failure, I'm a failure now, and I will be a failure for the rest of my life. It's something inherent in me, in my genes, or wherever. And it leaves out the fact that we're the ones who are making that evaluation. Right? It's not something inherent in us. Something has happened and we've reached this conclusion. So we want it to be very clear that I am the one who is doing it. So I'm going to change this feel, and I'm going to use the general word evaluate, so I don't have to write that whole string of things each time. So I'm going to change this to I evaluate myself as a failure. And I'm not going to put evaluate in quotes because that is a much more general term and one that, for me anyway, doesn't represent a problem in the way that we've been talking about. All right, here we are with I evaluate myself as a failure. But we still don't have any idea how come, do we? So we want to start getting very much more specific, very much more down to whatever our experience has been to get the particulars. And I'm going to start out with that by putting a date on it. For example, I can say right now, and